I'm going to send it to Adam to talk to me about Philly versus Orlando. Something like that, right? Or Portland, Orlando. Which one did you want to do that didn't exist?
I want to do both.
We were starting to figure out who wanted to do what, and Adam said he wanted to take Portland versus Orlando. So he picked game E of this tournament.
All of the above.
We told him he's going to look at Portland versus Philly instead. Go ahead.
So I've spoken. Who am I doing? Philly and Portland? Kidding.
How did Philly and Portland get here?
We don't know. No, we do. But Philly, so both teams have been undefeated throughout this tournament. Philly coming level on points with Orlando in Group A with 7, only finishing second on goal differential by a single goal. So because, this tournament makes no sense, there are no rules anymore. Orlando topped that group with a positive 3 goal difference and 7 points. Sure. But Philadelphia, beating NYC, beating Miami, tying Orlando. And then obviously winning the knockout games that we've spoken about. Portland doing pretty much the same in their group. Their group obviously being a little bit more difficult than Philly's. I know Philly's kind of got shifted around a little bit when Nashville dropped out. So, Miami and Chicago and people moved around and that messed up, who was playing who. But Portland's group, so they topped it again with 7 points. LAFC, Houston, and the dumpster fire that is the Galaxy in that group. Beating Galaxy 2-1, beating Houston 2-1, and then tying LAFC 2-all. And then obviously winning the knockout groups that we've spoken about. As far as going into this game, I think this feels more like it could be a final than the other one, if that makes sense. Like I think of the 4 teams that are left, you could make the argument that these have been the 2 best teams that are left. Philly just being a solid unit, so I think the system that they employ. I think I was watching an interview that their whole game plan is basically to grind teams down. So we know we'll stay compact and basically tire you guys out, and then when that happens, we'll hit you on the counter and we'll be totally fine. And it seems to be working. So who am I to say anything? Portland, I think Portland's just they know what they're doing by this point. Those players have been together. That core of that Portland team has been together for I don't know how long now. So they know how each other play. It's the reason they're one of the strongest teams in the league for the last couple of years. So there's no real surprise that Portland's one of the last 4 teams. I think of the 4 teams that are left, if you said pick a team to make the semifinal, if you said Portland, P would be like, yeah, that probably would happen. Yeah, I mean, Connor mentioned Brendan Aronson probably on his way out. I'd imagine that happens after the tournament. So before, if any regular season stuff occurs, that'll be somewhere in there, which would be a huge loss to that midfield.
Is the transfer window open for that even to happen? I don't know how it's been shifted with the world.
I don't know. So I think the one in England goes through, I want to say till the first week of October. It's weird now because everything's been moved around with the pandemic.
MLS announces revised 2020 transfer window. So you got a 2-day transfer window that passed in July, and then the secondary one starts on the 12th, right after the tournament, and moves into Thursday, October 29th.
Yeah, so that's a big window for teams to move around. I know Mönchengladbach in Germany was linked with him, and their sporting director said that he's a player they've been keeping their eye on. And I think he would fit in pretty well there. That's a team known for developing, young players and selling them off, years and years later once they've kind of matured and progressed. But in terms of this tournament, I think, he'll obviously still be there for the next 2 games, assuming they make the final. I don't know who to call for this one. I could see either one of these teams winning, and then I think the winner of this game, barring Orlando Voodoo Magic again, I think whoever wins this game wins the whole thing.
Bold shout.
Yeah.
Um,
Bold.
I haven't seen Minnesota, so I can't realistically pick them to win the whole thing just because I haven't seen them.
They're
I
the
can.
Loons. They're the Loons. You can do whatever you want.
Fair. And I don't want to. I whatever. It would be the most MLS thing in the world if Orlando wins this whole thing. So I guess I'm rooting for this side of the bracket. If I have to say a score, I'm gonna say Philly 2-2, and then Philly and PKs.
Interesting. My prediction is 2-2, but Portland and PKs.
I could have gone either way with that. Just because I think Andre Blake's better at saving PKs, I went with him.
Don't sleep on Steve Clark, my guy.
Dude, I'm not. I'm just saying the way Andre Blake's been in this tournament, I think he's the more on form keeper, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah,
Connor,
I
your
would say
thoughts?
that's a question. I want to pose a question first before we get to that. If Andre Blake falls out of this MVP goalkeeper form, are Philly out?
Against Portland with
yeah.
To me, it depends on what lineup they put out, right? If Valeri's in there to start, maybe. If he's not in there, I think they can hold off and maybe grab a lead before Valeri can come in and do something to hurt him.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't start the NYC game, which I think I was surprised with, but Portland still looked like they were in comfortable control over NYC. Granted, those are two vastly different teams, but I think Portland's good enough without Valeri that obviously he's a massive, missing component, and they're obviously exponentially better with him in there. But I think they're a solid enough team that, if he does come in 60 minutes into the game, that I think they can still give Philly a game.
Yeah, no, they won't roll over by any means,
Right.
but it's very clear that with Valeri in there, they are better than when Blanco runs the show on his own, because two people instead of one you got to watch. That's just me. I'm not a fan of Eric Williamson. I'm still not. He has good moments, but he's just not Valeri. That's so I think they rotated him out because of tired legs. I would put money on it that he's starting on. When do they play tomorrow? Or are they both tomorrow?
No.
Is it tomorrow and then
Tuesday?
Yeah, it's tomorrow and Tuesday. So on Monday I would predict that he's starting.
Yeah.
And then final 5 days after that, or 6 days, depending when you played. Connor, your prediction?
I'm gonna say 2-1 Portland.